Vital signs and verdicts, truth under the scope. Hospital fails when the profits the hope. Lots of price tag on a corporate sheet that let you bleed till the ledure's complete.
Welcome to Vital Signs and Verdicts, where medicine meets the law and the truth gets put under the microscope. I'm Liam, a former hospital administrator turned whistleblower, and your host. I'm joined by our panel. Hope, a former surgical RN who lived through her own systemic failure. Pete, who holds a doctorate in psychology and helps firms pick juries for high-profile cases. And Dr. Tyler, a medical doctor with a Juris Doctorate who has testified in federal court and before Congress.
Before we begin, everything we discuss today reflects our professional opinions based on publicly available information, including the court filings in this case. Nothing here is legal advice, medical advice, or a statement of fact beyond what is documented in those filings.
Tonight, we're talking about a turning point, one of those moments in a medical legal case where the ground shifts under everyone's feet. The plaintiff in the Richardson Edmonds case has now filed her Affidavit of Merit, the document Missouri law requires before a medical negligence case can move forward. And if you've been following this case, you know this affidavit has been the center of a months-long tug-of-war over missing records, contradictory charts, and a hospital system that seems to have more versions of the truth than anyone can explain.
But here's the twist. This isn't just an affidavit, this is the first affidavit. There are multiple affidavits from an emergency department medical director, an internist, a registered nurse, an internal medicine specialist, a doctor known as a medical expert, and a doctor specializing in cardiovascular disease, internal medicine, and interventional cardiology, all pointing to the same pattern. Paralytics billed after extubation, missing vital signs, contradictory diagnoses, medication patterns incompatible with survival, billing that doesn't match care,
and 3 incompatible versions of the same medical record. This is no longer one widow's allegation. This is a panel of medical professionals all saying the same thing.
So what does this filing mean? What happens next? And what is the hospital thinking right now? Let's break it down. What the Affidavit of Merit actually does. Tyler.
The Affidavit of Merit is not a verdict. It's not proof of negligence. It's not even evidence. It's a gateway requirement. Missouri law says a plaintiff must show that a qualified medical professional reviewed the case and believes there is reasonable cause to think the defendants failed to meet the standard of care.
The affidavit filed is actually the plaintiff's summation of the affidavits she has received. She will hold on to those until the defense asks for them or discovery phase.
We have Judge Marcus Hall on the line. Judge, thank you for calling in. What can you tell us about this case?
Thank you for having me. Well, by filing this affidavit, the plaintiff has now cleared the statutory hurdle the defense was counting on. They were banking on her failing to get an expert. She didn't fail, and shown that even with missing records, experts still see red flags.
Every expert saw the same issues.
And now has shifted the burden back onto the hospital. Now the question becomes, if nothing was done wrong, why do 6 experts see the same problems?
What happens between now and the May 26th motion to dismiss hearing?
Well, Liam, the filing of the affidavit sets off a predictable chain reaction. 1. The defense scramble. Is the affidavit valid? They will attack the doctor's qualifications, the wording, the timing, whether the expert had enough records. They will argue anything to say the affidavit is insufficient.
Then, too, the plaintiff's strategy has to be show the contradictions. Her strongest weapon is the chaos the hospital created. 3 conflicting record sets, missing medical administration records, the MAR, missing vital signs, billing contradictions, diagnoses added later, respiratory failure removed.
No doctor could give a perfect affidavit because the hospital has not provided a complete, consistent record.
So number 3 will be the court's focus. Is the affidavit good enough to proceed?
Judges in Missouri generally do not dismiss cases when the records are contradictory. The hospital delayed production. The plaintiff made good faith efforts. Experts still found red flags. The judge will ask, does this affidavit meet the minimum legal requirement? And the answer is almost certainly yes.
So we have a caller. Hello, Abel from Hollister. What is your question?
What is the hospital's game plan right now?
Inside the hospital's legal war room, the strategy likely revolves around 3 pillars. The first is delay, delay, delay. The longer they stall, the harder it is for the plaintiff to get experts, the more the migration overwrites. The more they can argue too much time has passed.
The second is to attack the affidavit. not the medicine. They do not want to litigate paralytics after extubation, missing vital signs, contradictory diagnoses, missing medication administration records, billing fraud indicators. So they will argue the affidavit is defective. The doctor isn't qualified. The doctor didn't have enough records.
The third will be control the narrative around the missing records. Their talking points will be, this is normal, this is a migration issue. Nothing nefarious happened.
But they know if the full audit trails, pre-migration logs, and original Cerner data ever surface, they could reveal exactly what happened in real time. Caller, you are on Vital Signs and Verdicts.
Hi, I'm Brians. I have been following this case from the beginning. Thank you all for doing this. Anyway, will the plaintiff ever get the full records?
Here's the uncomfortable reality. The hospitals rarely find missing records unless a judge orders it. A whistleblower surfaces, a forensic expert is brought in, or sanctions are on the table.
Now that the affidavit is filed, the court can order audit trails, server logs, IT staff depositions, pre-migration backups, Cerner legacy data, Epic conversion logs, and the hospital knows it.
All right, panel, let's talk about the elephant in the room. This isn't one affidavit. This is the affidavit that summarizes the actual affidavits from professionals. What does that mean?
When multiple experts from different specialties all see the same red flags, that's devastating for a defense. It means the problems aren't isolated, they're systemic.
And jurors love consensus. One expert can be dismissed. 6 experts? That's a pattern. That's credibility. That's a problem for the hospital.
And here's the legal angle. Multiple affidavits make it harder for the defense to argue the affidavit is defective. If one affidavit has a technical flaw, fine. But if 3 or 4 experts all say the same thing, the judge sees that as good faith compliance.
And remember, the panel only has access to the plaintiff's affidavit, but the judge, he knows more affidavits exist. He knows they're coming, and he knows they're from different specialties. Our next caller is Heather from Branson.
Does having multiple experts make the case stronger?
Absolutely. It shows the problems aren't subjective. They're objective.
Next caller, Billy from Hollister.
Can the defense attack all the affidavits?
They can try. But the more affidavits there are, the harder it is to argue they're all defective.
Caller Lane from Reed Spring, go ahead.
Will the judge treat this differently because multiple experts are involved?
Yes. Judges take patterns seriously. Multiple experts equals multiple red flags.
Judge Marcus Hall. What do multiple affidavits signal to a judge?
When a judge sees multiple affidavits, here's what it signals. The plaintiff is serious. She's not guessing. She's building a record. The problems are not isolated. Different experts, different specialties, same concerns. The defense can't rely on technicalities. Multiple affidavits make dismissal harder. The court may need to order deeper discovery. Audit trails, IT logs, depositions all become more likely. And I'll say this. When the judge eventually sees the supporting affidavits the plaintiff hasn't filed yet, it will influence how he views the credibility of the case.
Joe from Merriam Woods, you're on Vital Signs and Verdicts.
This is probably not the first time there have been missing or altered records. It would explain why I see so many people online saying they can't find an attorney to take their cases. A hospital can just change records to avoid wrongdoing or court. And that should be criminal.
Let's talk about this because you're touching on something that almost never gets said out loud, but everyone in healthcare law knows.
You're not imagining it, you're not exaggerating, and you're not wrong. Medical malpractice cases live or die on the medical record. If the record is incomplete, contradictory, or altered, most attorneys won't touch the case, not because they don't believe the patient, but because you can't prove what happened if the evidence has been rewritten. And yes, that means hospitals that alter records can effectively erase liability.
And it happens more than people think. I've worked in hospitals for decades. I've seen records cleaned up. I've seen notes added later. I've seen diagnoses appear that were never discussed. I've seen vital signs disappear. Most families never know. They just know something feels wrong, but the chart says everything was fine.
And attorneys know they can't win without a clean record. Here's the brutal truth. Most attorneys won't take a case unless the records are complete, consistent, and support the story. If the records are missing, contradictory, or altered, the attorney knows. The case will be expensive. The case will be risky. The defense will blame the patient. And the jury will never see the truth. So yes, altered records kill cases before they even start.
And that's why this case is different. Most families never get proof. Most families never get multiple versions of the record. Most families never get VA copies that contradict the hospital's version. Most families never get billing codes that expose the truth, but here the plaintiff has portal records, VA records,
official Cox records, billing records, and 6 experts all saying the same thing. That's rare. That's why this case is moving forward.
And let's be clear, altering medical records is criminal. Federal law prohibits it. State law prohibits it. Hospitals know this. But unless someone catches it, unless there are multiple versions or a whistleblower or a forensic audit, it's almost impossible to prove.
And that's why this case matters. Because if a jury sees proof that a hospital altered records, it doesn't just affect this case. It affects every patient who's ever been told, sorry, the records don't show anything wrong.
And it explains exactly what the caller said. Why so many people can't get attorneys. Why so many cases never get filed. Why so many families never get answers. Because the truth lives in the chart. And if the chart is rewritten, the truth disappears.
And that's why the Affidavit of Merit and the multiple expert affidavits behind it are such a big deal. For once, the contradictions didn't stay hidden. For once, the missing records didn't stay missing. For once, the experts saw enough to say, this needs to go forward. And that changes everything.
Hi, I am Will from Kirbyville and was wondering, at this point, can't the plaintiff just look at the defense and say, well, we caught you lying about this one thing, so how is anyone supposed to believe anything you say?
Let's talk about that, because this is the question every listener is asking right now.
Jurors absolutely think that way. Look, jurors are human. If you lie to them once or lie to the judge, they don't forget it. When the defense attorney said 0% chance of record loss, and the plaintiff later filed federal studies, peer-reviewed research, and industry standards proving that's false, that's a credibility hit. A big one. And in a courtroom, credibility is currency. Once you spend it, you don't get it back.
And it wasn't a small lie. It was a medical impossibility. Anyone who has ever worked in a hospital knows migrations lose data. Everyone knows it. It's not controversial. So when the defense said 0%, it wasn't just wrong. It was absurd. And when a lawyer says something absurd with confidence, jurors start asking, what else are they hiding? What else isn't true? What else did they gloss over?
In law, a credibility crack becomes a credibility canyon. Here's the legal reality. If a party makes one statement that is clearly false, the judge is allowed to question the reliability of all their statements. It doesn't mean the judge assumes everything else is a lie, but it absolutely means the judge scrutinizes everything more closely. And in this case, the 0% claim wasn't the only problem. They said the plaintiff already has 3 records, ignoring that the records contradict each other. They pointed to a woman in the audience and said she has all the emails, which is not how preservation works. They dismissed missing vital signs and missing MAR as irrelevant. Each one of those moments chips away at credibility.
And jurors don't need a law degree to see the pattern. If you lie about the easy thing, the thing everyone can fact check, they assume you're lying about the hard things too.
And here's the part that matters most. The plaintiff doesn't have to call them liars. The evidence does that on its own.
Exactly. The plaintiff doesn't need to stand up in court and say, you lied. All she has to do is show the 0% claim, the federal studies, the peer-reviewed research, the industry standards, the migration risks, the 3 conflicting record sets, the missing vital signs, the missing MAR, the billing contradictions, and the judge will draw his own conclusions.
And remember, the plaintiff's affidavit is just the summary. The judge knows she has multiple expert affidavits behind it. He hasn't seen them yet, but he knows they exist, and he knows they're from different specialties. So when he sees the defense making statements that don't match reality, he's thinking, what are these experts going to say about this?
And that's the defense's nightmare. Because once a judge starts doubting your credibility, you're not just losing the argument, you're losing the room.
So to answer the caller's question, yes, one proven falsehood can undermine everything else the defense says. And in this case, the cracks are already showing.
Okay, caller. Tim from Branson West, you're on.
At this point, what can the plaintiff do to keep the defense from dragging this on forever?
This is the question every listener is thinking. Because yes, defense delay is a strategy, a very common one. Let's break down what the plaintiff can actually do.
There are only 3 real tools to stop delay, and she's already using all 3. Defense attorneys drag cases out because delay benefits them. Memories fade, records get overwritten, judges rotate, plaintiffs get exhausted. But the plaintiff in this case has already used the three strongest tools available. 1. Filing the Affidavit of Merit early. This shuts down the defense's favorite early dismissal tactic. 2. Filing motions that force deadlines. Every motion she files creates a clock the defense cannot ignore. 3. Creating a record of contradictions and missing data. Judges hate gamesmanship. If the defense keeps stalling while the plaintiff keeps documenting inconsistencies, the judge eventually steps in.
And the plaintiff is doing something most people don't. She's documenting everything. She's keeping timelines. She's keeping copies of every version of the record. She's keeping proof of delays. She's keeping proof of contradictions. Judges notice that. It shows she's not the one causing delay. The hospital is.
And delay backfires when the plaintiff has multiple experts. Here's the irony. The longer the defense drags this out, the more affidavits the plaintiff can gather. The more experts review the records, the more contradictions get documented. The more the judge sees a pattern. Delay only works when the plaintiff is unprepared. She's not unprepared.
And let's be blunt. If the judge believes the defense is dragging this out to let the migration wipe the audit trail, he can sanction them. He can order deadlines, production of logs, forensic preservation, depositions, or even adverse inference instructions. Judges do not tolerate delay when evidence is at risk.
So to answer the caller's question, the plaintiff can't stop the defense from trying to drag this out, but she can make sure the judge sees exactly what they're doing. And she already is.
And once a judge thinks you're playing games, you lose the room. You lose credibility. You lose leverage.
And in this case, the plaintiff has something most people don't. Multiple expert affidavits waiting in the wings. The defense knows that. The judge knows that. And that changes the power dynamic.
Eddie from Rockaway Beach, you are on Vital Signs and Verdicts. Go ahead with your question.
Here's the deal. The hospital has obviously been lying, and probably not just in this case. They've probably been doing this for years and getting away with it. So this is all moot. They're just going to keep lying, keep making excuses, and nothing will happen to them. They won't get in trouble. They'll just carry on covering their rears.
That's a heavy statement, and it's one a lot of people feel in their gut. Let's talk about it.
You're right about the pattern, but wrong about the outcome. You're absolutely right that hospitals have gotten away with this before. You're right that missing records, altered notes, and contradictory charts are not new. You're right that most families never get answers. But here's the part that's different. Most families never get proof. This plaintiff did. Most families never get 3 conflicting versions of the same record, VA records that contradict the hospital, billing codes that contradict the chart, timestamps that don't match, diagnoses added later, vital signs missing in one system but present in another. Most families never get multiple experts saying the same thing. This case isn't moot. It's rare.
Hospitals get away with it because no one ever catches the pattern. I've worked in hospitals for decades. I've seen things disappear. I've seen notes rewritten. I've seen diagnoses added that were never discussed. And you're right, most of the time, no one catches it. But here, the plaintiff caught it because she had portal records, VA records, official records, billing records, and she kept them all.
And once a pattern is exposed, jurors don't forgive it. Jurors don't need a smoking gun. They need a pattern. And this case has a pattern: delay, contradiction, missing data, migration timing, 0% chance of loss, 3 versions of the truth. Jurors punish cover-ups harder than they punish mistakes.
And here's the legal reality. If the hospital has been doing this for years, that actually makes this case more dangerous for them, not less. Because if a judge sees multiple affidavits, multiple contradictions, multiple missing records, multiple versions of the chart, he starts thinking, this isn't an accident, this is a system.
And remember, the plaintiff's affidavit is just the summary. The judge knows she has more affidavits she hasn't filed yet. He hasn't seen them, but he knows they exist. He knows they're from different specialties. He knows they're based on independent record sources. So when the defense keeps saying, like, nothing is wrong, everything is normal, she already has all the records, the judge is thinking, then why do, not just a couple, but why do six experts disagree?
And here's the part the caller might not realize. Hospitals don't fear lawsuits. They fear exposure. They fear forensic audits, whistleblowers, contradictory records, judges who see patterns, juries who see cover-ups. This case has all of that.
So no, this isn't moot, this isn't hopeless. This isn't another case that disappears quietly. This is the case where the contradictions didn't stay hidden.
So to the caller's point, yes, hospitals have gotten away with this before, but this time the paper trail is too loud to ignore.
And here's the legal kicker. If the hospital destroyed the only evidence that could clear them, the law assumes the evidence would not have cleared them. That's not a loophole, that's the rule.
So to the caller's point, yes, the hospital may believe the proof is dead, but in the eyes of the law, if the hospital killed the proof, the hospital killed its own defense. Rhonda from Branson, you are on.
What if the hospital just comes back and says the records she's showing didn't come from them, basically implying she is the one falsifying them?
That's a powerful question, and a real one. Let's break it down.
They can say it, but they can't make it stick. Legally, that argument collapses the moment you look at the sources of the records. The plaintiff didn't create these records. She didn't type them. She didn't alter them. She didn't generate them. She downloaded them from the Cox patient portal, the VA interfacility exchange, and the hospital's own official production. Those are three independent systems. If the hospital claims the plaintiff falsified them, they're saying she hacked the Cox portal. She hacked the VA, she forged billing codes, she fabricated timestamps, and she somehow created contradictions that match the hospital's own billing. That's not a defense. That's a conspiracy theory.
And the VA records blow that argument out of the water. The VA records came directly from Cox during the hospitalization. They were transmitted electronically in real time. If the hospital says those aren't ours, they're accusing the VA of fabricating medical data. No judge is going to buy that.
And jurors hate blame shifting. If the hospital tries to say the widow forged the records, jurors will see that as desperation, especially when the billing codes match, the medication entries match, the vital signs match, the contradictions match, and the experts all saw the same issues. Jurors aren't stupid. They know who controls the medical record.
And here's the legal reality. If the hospital claims the plaintiff falsified records, they have to prove it. And they can't.
Because the plaintiff has metadata from the portal, timestamps from the VA, billing codes from Cox, and multiple experts who reviewed all three sources. The hospital would have to explain why their own data contradicts their own official production.
And the moment the defense accuses the plaintiff of falsifying records, they lose credibility with the judge. It's the nuclear option, and it blows up in their own face.
Hi, I am Shelley, a Branson resident and a Cox patient. My question is this case rare because the plaintiff is pro-SE, and is that helping her, or is it her strategy? Because I know people who couldn't even get lawyers to get this far in their cases.
Let's talk about this because it's the question people whisper but never say out loud. Yes, this case is rare, and yes, being pro se is part of why it exists at all.
Most medical malpractice cases never get filed, not because they're weak, but because the records are incomplete, contradictory, or altered. And here's the brutal truth. If a lawyer sees missing records, they walk away. If a lawyer sees contradictions, they walk away. If a lawyer sees a hospital dragging its feet, they walk away. Not because they don't believe the family, but because they know the case will be impossible to prove. A pro se plaintiff doesn't walk away because she can't.
When you're pro se, you're not calculating risk the way a law firm does. You're not thinking about billable hours or expert costs. You're thinking, this is my husband. This is my truth. This is my only chance. A lawyer would have dropped this case the moment the hospital produced 3 conflicting records. A pro se plaintiff didn't, and that's why the contradictions came to light. Her strategy is simple. He refuses to stop.
Well, that was quite a show. And if you're sitting there thinking, how does something like this even happen? You're not alone. Our callers asked the hard questions tonight. And the truth is, this case is shining a light on something most people never see. What happens behind the curtain when a hospital controls the record, the narrative, and the evidence. But here's what we want you to take away from tonight. Hope?
You have rights, you have power, and you are not helpless in a hospital. When you walk into an ER or end up in an ICU or a clinic, you are not just a patient, you are the owner of your medical record. Right, Pete?
Right. You are the historian of your own care, and you are the only person who will ever advocate for yourself. with the urgency your life deserves.
So what should everyone remember? Tyler.
Print your records, download them early, save every version, scrutinize everything, ask questions, even the uncomfortable ones.
And document what doesn't make sense, because as this plaintiff is proving, you don't have to be a lawyer, you don't have to be wealthy, and you don't have to be part of a giant institution to stand up and say, this isn't right and I'm not backing down. One person can challenge a system. One person can expose contradictions. One person can force accountability. And sometimes one person is exactly what it takes to make the truth impossible to ignore. That's all we have for today on Vital Signs and Verdicts. Stay aware, stay informed, and above all, stay empowered. We'll see you next time.
Clipboards full of fine printed lies, profit margins where the patient's hope dies. Doctors pen signs off on a death sentence. Bills pile high while the conscience is silent. Vital signs drop but the cash flow climbs. Verdicts written for the crimes defined. They lock the files when the questions start. Leave the family with a broken heart. Vital signs and verdicts, truth under the scope. Hospital fails when the profit's the hope. Lots of price tag corporate sheet that let you bleed till the ledger's complete. ER hallways where the poor get turned away. VIP swoops where the rich get to stay. Nurses handshake but the bosses cut costs. Patient flat lines while the stock market's lost. Vital signs flat but the bonuses rise. Verdicts bought before the alibi's tied. They burn the records when the lawyers arrive. Leave the loved ones with a hollow goodbye. Vital signs and verdicts, truth under the scope. Hospital fails when the profit's the hope. Lots of price tag on a corporate sheet that let you bleed till the ledger's complete. I've seen the charts where the doses were wrong. Heard the whispers where the cover-up's strong. They call it medicine but it's just a racket. Trading lives for a bigger bracket. Vital signs and verdicts, truth under the scope. Hospital fails when the profit's the hope. Lots of price tag on a corporate sheet that let you bleed till the ledger's complete. Heart stops ticking but the greed still breathe. Verdict's clear but no one sees.